Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
The best for your baby is at dbesttoys.com. We have the best strollers, car seats, walkers, feeding accessories, playpens, cribs, clothing, and the widest range of brand name toys like Barbie, Hot Wheels, Nerf, LOL, Fisher-Price, Cocomelon, Intex pools, Amazon Fire tablets, HP and Gateway laptops, and the best bikes, scooters, skateboards, and ride-on. Visit us in-store at Southern Main Road, Macbean, or shop online now at dbesttoys.com. That's dbesttoys.com. We have the best toys at the best prices.
Let your voice be heard. Call Madam Fix It on WESN, the only place that effectively helps you with your woes. Having problems getting onto government agencies, water woes, NIS and pension problems, potholes, and much, much more. Call me, Madam Fix It, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on WESN. Let me fix it for you.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered.
The conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the controversial topics of today's world to gain answers that are key for a better tomorrow. One and One with me, Kemuel Pascal. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Only on WESN, Content Capital.
WESN.
Well, this is Thursday, August 11th. Good morning, I'm Andy Johnson. Welcome to it. Welcome to us around here. This is AM Prime on WESN. Let's tell you what's happening this Thursday morning. Of course, we have the staples for you. We take a look around the region. We have the Newsday poll. Also, we're talking with attorney, former member of parliament, former government minister, as a matter of fact, Prakash Ramadar. He's taking issue on behalf of some workers in part of the country called San Francisco with the Water and Sewage Authority about problems they continue to have there on that matter. We also hope to be talking with Mr. Samuel Sankar. He's the councillor who defied the orders, you might call it, from the leader of the opposition, his leader, about staying away from a meeting concerning local government issues with the local government minister. The Prime Minister was supposed to have attended, but he didn't when the news came out that those members of the UNC in the regional corporations were advised by their political leader not to attend the meeting because they're saying it's a sham, it's a mamagai. But Mr. Sankar decided to disobey those instructions or orders, if you like to call it. And he said, well, his people came first and the welfare of his people came first. Well, we're trying to talk with him about that. We will come back in a moment with our first guest, Umar Abdullah of the First Wave Movement. They're taking issue with the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, for the dismissal of workers in the public sector there, and they are petitioning him to reinstate those workers and maintain their salaries and their pensions and what have you. We will talk with him on the other side of this when we take a break and come back, so stay with us.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit?
Yes.
What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole. It's for all of us in public.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11 a.m. only on WESN, Content Capital.
Welcome back to the program. Let me just read something for you that is in my inbox between yesterday and today. This is in reference to a letter we've written to the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines asking him to immediately reinstate all teachers and government workers to their respective jobs and to compensate them for their loss of earnings. This letter has been copied to all relevant teachers, unions, trade unions, civil society, and activists groups within the Caribbean. Upon receipt of the letter, we ask that they endorse same and deliver it to FPG's respective embassy in their country. And it says that the first wave movement attempted, but it was unsuccessful in delivering this letter to the High Commission of SVG in Port of Spain, Trinidad. On the line with us now to talk over that, the leader of this movement, Umar Abdullah. Good morning, my friend, and thanks for taking our call.
Good morning to you and to all your viewers and listeners.
All right, so first, update us on what, or inform our audience here about what the situation is, because I imagine, just like myself, I was clued out on that and wasn't sure, I wasn't aware that such action was taking place or had taken place in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Yes, so presently there are a number of students and teachers quite in excess of 500 persons would have lost because they refused to take the job in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Was something that, one would have never expected would happen in the Caribbean region. We have these things happening in a lot of parts of the development, but never in this world. And the question was, how did we come to this? Why would the Prime Minister the longest serving prime minister within the Caribbean region, with the most experience with things like this. When pressure was placed on him, the union and the move the union to respond to this action that he took, he indicated he would not reinstate, but reinforce the teachers and the public servants if they were to reapply for their different positions. This certainly is against all industrial relations, laws in our region and internationally as well. How can you just take away overnight the service of your public servants and teachers who have worked years to, in service of their country? The teachers themselves would have taught many students and would have afforded many of those students an education so that they would have been able to go back out in society and give back to society in so many ways. It's very wrenching to think that this could happen to a public servant or teacher who, in those days, one would understand the mere reason for entering this service is because the love of it, and not merely for the money of it. So we were committed by, collecting the relevant information, speaking to relevant persons there in the magazine. We have reached out to each union and also to certain members of the teaching service who was actually affected by this. One particular teacher had to resort to delivering food in order to put food on the table and to continue to meet their intentions because of the action of the minister. Why would the other leaders in the Caribbean region allow such thing to happen? Why there's nothing that's morning on the over the phone on a program like this. So we would have written take a decision to write the Prime Minister of Tendency the Grenadines, ask him to immediately reconsider his position. Of course, reminding him of his position as the Prime Minister, the longest standing Prime Minister in the region, and indicating to him in so many ways why he should do this and reinstate all the public servants and teachers and compensate them for their loss of earnings.
All right, let me ask you, when was the letter written, and do you know if he got it, and how, did you try and send it directly to him? I want to come to what you said you tried to deposit it.
The letter is actually put together, it's dated in 1984. We attempted in the letter, we asked all the relevant persons who got copies of this letter, which included trade unions, teachers' unions, activists, civil society within the region. It's a whole list of them. The letter will be made available to all the media houses this morning and the general public. We will have made an attempt to deliver a letter to the embassy here in Trinidad. We asked everyone within the region to do the same yesterday at 1 o'clock. We would have had other persons on the different islands in the state, only to discover there are not many embassies, the media convention with the Grenadines embassies in these different islands, also here in Trinidad and Tobago. There is an address listed number 19 St. Clair Avenue, Port Spain. When we got the idea yesterday, all we saw was the Russian and the British High Commission. We did have a couple of discussions with the High Commission.
The German and the British, the German embassy and the British High Commission. I know where that building is. Yes. Yes,
and there's no embassies there. representing St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So I proceeded to make some inquiries. I called a number of institutions, one being the Immigration Department, and also I would have called our own Foreign Affairs Ministry. To which I was told that the British Embassy does assist in some consular matters, but in relation to our request for delivering the letter, we were directed to the website of the St. Vincent the Grenadines website, where we would perhaps get an address where we can send the letter to. But we had already addressed the letter nicely, so we decided that we would use the services of TP Post and send it via registered mail. I also ensured that he got a copy in his personal email. So that was the level of action that we took. We did communicate with some of the other islands yesterday who actually experienced the same in Barbados, especially. There was a special live program that was done by March the Week, which can be ruled and I think it's one Caribbean. You get a copy of it and look as well when it was really advertised and spoken about and so on.
Yeah, what do you know as to how this matter may not have been taken up by the relevant and pertinent trade unions in Trinidad and Tobago, for instance?
Right, and we do intend to engage the trade unions. As a matter of fact, they would have gotten a copy of the letter as well. We do intend to engage them, especially that we learned that they're going to do a march on Friday. We want to engage them today so that at least mention can be made about this, because this is right at our feasible. And we would have seen an extension when they go out or Prime Minister would threaten out of the treatments. And we almost was at this place some time back. If only public servants and the teachers and did not stand up and say, no, we're not going to allow this to happen. That's from the country supporting them. We would have come out clearly and supported the public servants and the teachers and the members of the protective services and so on. Very, very, in various forms, as you would know yourself.
You think this is somehow sort of I say on the other side of our understanding of Prime Minister Dr. Gonzalez, given his political and ideological bent, at least how some of us see it, that he would take action like this? Because I suppose he tends to be, well, not tends to be, he is more, you would say, left progressive leaning than a lot of his other colleagues, prime ministers in the region. So you think this is kind of like a surprising position he has been taking on this question? Because, he had that issue which he was pelted by someone where on the way to court because there were people who believed that he was pressing and pushing them in the wrong direction about the vaccine at the beginning?
Yes, and you can recall the decision where the people was allowed to take on the boat in the volcano incident, and they were told only persons who had gotten the injection would be allowed on the boat. He would have, on one occasion, told me I must be the Prime Minister of Barbados to follow his lead. So he is, I guess, someone who sees himself as perhaps because he's the longest standing Prime Minister in the Caribbean, that he possesses sort of position to take the lead in taking matters in his hands, I guess, and making decisions, yes. I am not too sure if the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago would have done the same, taken his lead, and attempted the same with the chair in Trinidad and Tobago. But rest assured, We are in contact with the other trade unions, teachers unions within the Caribbean region, a whole list of them. We painstakingly went and contacted each and every one of them. And we are, at present, combining our efforts, collaborating and putting our heads together on how we can respond in a peaceful way to what is happening on the island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in an attempt to stop
the group of islands
taking place in the rest of the other islands.
Yeah, in fact, it's a group of islands, the Grenadines. And also there is this organization called the Caribbean Congress of Labor, which sort of represents trade unions across the CARICOM region.
Yeah. Yep. We also sent copies of this to JTUM, Python, our own umbrella organization here. President of the Education International would have gotten a copy of it. President of the North Island Teachers Association. Also, we sent a copy. The only political entity would give a copy of this letter, Joseph Patterson, leader of the United Independence Congress in Jamaica. The reason why we chose to send him a copy, or that political entity a copy, was because of the stance that they would have taken in Jamaica as regards to the injections and so on. If you could recall, Mr. Peterson himself was arrested in Jamaica for one of those, what the media would call anti-vax protests. So, like I said, the trade unions here has made a call for support on Friday for March in Port of Spain, and I am going to engage with them today. And if any one of them is listening to this broadcast, I would ask that they pay particular attention to this letter. They would have received a copy of it. And please, we need to address this situation. We need to make that call to the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to do what is his people and to live that promise he had promised them on the election day when he took that oath to represent his people in a fair and just manner. And he should, by now, be thinking or considering reinstating, not to re-employ, because if that happens, they're going to lose all their years of service and all their benefits and so on. So we are asking for a full reinstatement, an apology, and also compensation for their time lost.
Yeah, and but you may or may not know that I'm not sure that he's in the country or in the region at the moment, because the last thing I saw a couple of days ago, he was going on this, I think, a 2-week trip, and he was going to go to Taiwan, as a matter of fact. And surprisingly, he's taking the position of telling the government in Beijing, hands off of Taiwan. Again, one would think that he would have been on the other side of that.
Well, yes, and we were just Prime Minister taking his side of China and supporting the one China policy. So there is a sort of extension there, as you can see within the CARICOM, and I'm not too sure if his other colleagues, the islands, spoken to him about his position and the road that he is chosen to take, whether or not Mia Motley would responded to him, indicated to him, yes, I'm following your lead. Whether the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago would have indicated, yes, I'm following your lead, is yet to be known. But we want to send clear signal to all the governments within the region. We are totally, in the disagreement with this decision. We are not going to allow any sort of dictatorship or totalitarianism to step in our region, and we are not going to allow governments to take advantage of the people and to treat the people in such an inhumane fashion as regards to their decision going forward with this pandemic.
What do you expect? How do you expect that to be interpreted when you say you're not going to allow it? How would you not allow it if this is a decision that a government decides to make and makes it and say, well, this is our position? How are you going to not allow it?
Well, we have seen our own Prime Minister would have taken the decision to attempt to do that in Trinidad and Tobago, and will stop short of doing so. All public servants were allowed to return to their jobs. There are instances where companies, private companies in Trinidad and Tobago would have made to reinstate their workers and to compensate them for the loss of time and so on.
Yeah, and you think that is a direct result of sort of the advocacy and the opposition to it by, well, those on the other side, such as yourselves and such as trade unions and so on, not that the government had a different sort of line of thinking on it?
Yeah, definitely. And people have to understand that this is the power that we hold. We hold the keys to the powers of the corridors of government in our different countries, and we decide who holds those offices. We decide who takes the position of prime ministership and other ministries and so on. And it's the people's decision, and that's how it's always been in a democracy, and we want to continue that way. And no government should take a heavy-handed approach in dealing with matters such as these.
Are you prepared to be disruptive in the face of what might be government intransigence, if we could use such a strong term?
Well, there's always advocates on the side of civil disobedience, and we do intend to continue along that path. Like I've always said, we will continue to approach this with non-violent, non-confrontational. And it has never been where civil disobedience has ever not worked in any jurisdiction. And we have seen that throughout the years. Martin Luther King movement, Malcolm X movement, and so on. We have seen where Mahatma Gandhi, civil disobedience has never failed the people. And we intend to ask the people to recognize what is being lost here. And this is not just some...
Yeah, but sometimes in all these cases that you just announced, sometimes there was a lot of violence. I mean, actions of state agents, such as, the famous Pettus Bridge incident in 1963, when it was in the southern United States with the King Peace Movement. And then you had other kinds of attacks from the FBI and from local police forces in different parts of the United States. I mean, just on the way to the studio this morning, I was listening to a BBC feature on Gandhi, and I got out of the car at the point at which they were talking, and one of his sort of peace marches, people were beaten in some cases to death.
Yes, and that was violence from one side. The question is, how will the activists respond, or those who are at the receiving end respond? And this is our stance: non-violent, non-confrontational. At no point in time will the police say that the First Wave movement has been engaged in any violence or responded violently in any action of the police. And you will see in the pushback where I was arrested on 2 occasions, a couple of occasions, more than 2. There was no violent pushback by the First Wave movement or the pushback movement. Tear gas was used and force was used to police in some instances, and there was no violent response by the people. And we intend to continue that advocacy, and we intend to keep it that way.
I'll just ask you about Friday. So the proposed march, and you're going to be part of that, right? That is against the current position of the CPO on behalf of the government for this 4% offer on the table for public servants. You're going to be part of that.
Yes, of course, we would be part of it. Like I said, we are going to try to engage with the different trade unions to raise this issue of what is taking place in our neighboring islands. And we hope that this raised at this level would indicate to our very own government that, we're not going to to happen here in Trinidad and Tobago. Because, of course, we again talk about monkeypox, and after the monkeypox, maybe bird flu, the Prime Minister indicating that, he may very well need to put back the mask mandates and so on. So it's never anything cast in conflict with these leaders. They're always changing their minds and bringing on the people undue, pressure and, challenges and so on, and asking the people to make tremendous amounts of sacrifice when they themselves refuse to make the very same sacrifice.
All right, my friend. Thank you very much for talking with us on this matter. We're going to leave it there for now.
Okay, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, Umar Abdullah, head of the First Wave Movement. It's just a new advocacy. You're trying to get the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to back off on this decision of having sent home, as they say, hundreds of workers, teachers and others in the public service in issues having to do with their not conforming with the rules and regulations regarding COVID-19 in that CARICOM member state. We'll take a break. Much more on the other side. Stay with us.
And creamy, you'll find it right here. Makes you smile, relax a while, it's fun and good cheer. Ooh, enjoy every scoop. Ooh, every taste will get you hooked. We have flavors that you love, a combination special. Come along, enjoy our treats. This is Uncle Pete's.
The best for your baby is at thebesttoys.com. From the best strollers, car seats, baby carriers, high chairs, booster seats, rockers, jumpers and bouncers, walkers, baby blankets, feeding accessories, bathtubs. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship McBean. Shop online now at thebesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 332-BABY. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered.
The conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the controversial topics of today's world to gain answers that are key for a better tomorrow. One and One with me, Kemuel Pascal. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Only on WESN, Content Capital.
All right, welcome back to the program. Moments from now, we'll just give you a sort of sketch as to what's in today's issues of the Newsday Trinidad and Tobago and the Newsday at Tobago. But before that, let's take a look at what the poll is saying at the Newsday newspaper this morning. And the question is, are public marches by trade unions effective in getting governments to act one way or the other? And give reasons for your answer. Well, that fits nicely with our discussion moments ago with Mr. Omar Abdullah. He's saying yes, because the governments do change their minds, and governments have been changing their minds. He says that was the position with COVID-19. Some of the directions that we had been given in the beginning, they were adjusted and they were revised because of the opposition to some of them by trade unions and other interest groups in the society, and pressure groups in the society. So he will say, of course, yes. But let's see what the responses are to that poll. The question, marches don't solve anything in Trinidad and Tobago. That's what one person is saying. Here's his other response. Absolutely not when elections are called, which will be local government by year end. If the government wins, they need to go and sign, even if they offer 0% for the next 20 years, due to the fact that you are comfortable and accept the decisions made by the government. This is a final paper question about give reasons for your answer. And this other person is saying, no, this is just a waste of time. And there's other responses to the question, are public marches by trade unions effective in getting governments to act one way or the other? Well, let's take a little look at what's in the paper this morning, the Newsday today, Thursday, August 11th. And the story in the front page, we'll show it to you in a bit. The Trinidad and Tobago cyclists win a gold at the Pan Am Games, and a picture on the front page again about murders and the body. Undertakers removing the body of lay minister Silda Moody. She was 82 from a home on Edward Trace in Moruga on Wednesday. She was shot and killed, and her son wounded by a male relative at the home. A lot of times we know who that male relative is, but because of restrictions having to do with reporting and naming people in high offenses like that, they don't tell you, but you could put two and two together and decide who the male relative would have been. A woman, 82, shot and chopped. And that story takes up the better part of the page 3 in the paper, with pictures from the scene, the house, and grieving relatives there. And on the bottom of that, there's a story that says that the THA is to pay what it calls only true value of work to contractors. That's a big issue for a long time. The question of what people get paid for doing, providing what services for in the public sector. Let me just read the first couple of paragraphs on that story. Contractors owed by the Tobago House of Assembly will only be paid, quote, the true value of the work, unquote, and not the terms of their contracts. Contractors are owed $390 million, more than that, by the THA. Speaking on the Tobago Channel 5's Rise and Shine program on Wednesday, Chief Secretary Farley Augustine said the contractors will soon start receiving payments. But he warned, quote, I'm only paying contractors the value of their work. So in instances where we saw inflated invoices, where we saw invoices for works that are incomplete, you are only going to be paid the value of the work that was done, the true value of the work that was done. He's emphasizing that, the true value of the work that was done. Who will determine that? How will it be determined? These are things that we imagine will come out in the wash as this new, is it a policy position? Is it a new procedural direction that the administration is taking? We will see how that develops. He has blamed the previous administration's pre-election spending for what is called the exorbitant debts of the THA. So he's putting some of the blame on that on the previous administration, which was a PNM administration in charge in Tobago for the better part of 2 decades, and saying that their operations and their way of dealing with these things has led to debts now incurred, and that's on the shoulders of the current, still new administration that he's leading. So quantity surveyors would look at the work done, look at the material used. They would also look at the quality of the materials used and cost it. That would determine the true value of the works done, and that process has already started. It is already ongoing. Payments would actually come before the fiscal year sooner rather than later. So he's outlining just how they're going to go about this. So those are 2 of the big stories in the Newsday Trinidad and Tobago this morning. Just to show you what is on the front page. As we talked about the pictures and the main picture of this tragedy in Muruga. And this is on the back page of the Newsday Trinidad and Tobago today. In the Newsday Tobago, the top story says, "Ease the Carnival Jitters." An organization known as Tobago Civil Net, as an organization of civil society organizations, telling the Chamber of Commerce urging the THA to what they call ease the carnival jitters. It says here, the Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce and Tobago Civil Net have called on the Tobago Carnival Committee to calm the jitters of stakeholders who are desperate for more information about what is to happen October 28th to 30th. The organization on Tuesday joined the chorus of stakeholders criticizing the planning of the inaugural Tobago Carnival. On Monday, the THA Minority Leader Kelvon Morris spoke against the Division of Tourism, Culture, and Antiquities and Transportation's 10-day promotional trip to Grenada, arguing that countries with direct access to Tobago should have been preferred. Well, I heard a comment by an announcer on a radio station yesterday saying that having to do with this Tobago Carnival, it appears, and the announcer put a lot of focus on emphasis on his term, he's saying it appears that way, that the Tobago Carnival organizers don't seem to be taking any guide or trying to involve the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival organization in what they're doing there. So they want to go it alone. It seems from what this announcer was saying on the radio yesterday. But that's the situation. Ease the carnival jitters. That's the big story there. And some sporting stories with the Toronto tennis championships going on. The lady said that at this point she will consider retiring. You know who I'm talking about, the great lady of table tennis. All right, so let's take a break. We'll come back shortly with going around the region. Stay with us.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11 a.m. Only on WESN, Content Capital.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit? Yes. What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole, it's for all of us in public.
Welcome back. As we head up to the top of the hour, let's take a look at some of the things happening around the region, and we have them here this morning. In Guyana, the AFC, that's the Alliance for Change, one of the political parties in the situation in Guyana, is calling for the removal of the Guy Seco CEO. Here's more from Guyana News Source.
The cultivation of industrial hemp will commence in Region 6, East Berbice Quarantine, and Region 10, Upper Demerara Berbice. The Attorney General and the Minister of Legal Affairs, Anil Nanda, announced in the National Assembly during the passage of the Industrial Hemp Bill last evening. Hemp is part of the marijuana family, but is mostly grown for medicinal and commercial purposes. Globally, the industrial hemp market is valued at an estimated $4.1 billion US, and it is the intention of the Guyana government, according to the minister, to tap into the market as it seeks to further diversify the country's economic base. With local and international investors already knocking at its door, the Attorney General said the government has identified Region 6 and 10 for the commencement of hemp cultivation and production.
Why, Mr. Speaker? Because these are two regions that can be considered depressed and that can be considered regions that we need to stimulate employment and economic activities.
The Attorney General also noted that there are a number of large companies, including conglomerates in North America, that are anxiously awaiting the enactment of the bill. It was noted that aside from its economic benefits, industrial hemp has tremendous environmental and health benefits.
It absorbs carbon dioxide and releases oxygen into the atmosphere, with 1 acre of hemp being able to absorb over 22 tons of carbon dioxide. When harvested, it replaces more polluting materials in the manufacturing industry and provides alternatives for sustaining the environment. For example, in the paper industry, it can prevent deforestation with its high rate of recultivation, making it an obvious environmental choice over the use of trees for the manufacturing of paper.
The Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa, who presented the bill to the National Assembly, was keen on pointing out the economic benefits of hemp production.
Hemp production in Guyana is a win-win situation for all the players involved. For the grower, it will be a source of income generation and job creation. For the consumers, it could have significant benefits. And for the broader economy, it will be a valuable source of foreign exchange, especially in the context of economic diversification.
While the legislation decriminalizes the production of hemp with a THC level that is less than 0.3%, the Agriculture Minister said the bill clearly distinguishes hemp from marijuana and creates a legislative framework to effectively regulate the local hemp industry.
To Grenada now, where it is said that senior citizens are benefiting from an intergenerational boot camp.
The program was launched on May 17, 2022, with the intent to facilitate a bridging of the intergenerational gap where both the youth and elderly can learn from each other. The program targeted 10 persons 50 years and over from Montu and the surrounding communities and was administered by experienced tutors from the Ministry of Education. To cater for the aspect of knowledge transfer between young and old, per the program's design, the tutors were assisted by a volunteer youth from the community to provide hands-on guided demonstration to the participants of the intergenerational booth camp.
NTRC partnered with the Ministries of Education and ICT and the Mongava Development Foundation. IT officer in the Ministry of Education, Kate Dikoto, commended the NTRC for the initiative, which is aligned with the agenda to promote long life learning and education for all.
This initiative in itself fits nicely in the Ministry of Education agenda, right? Also, the Ministry of ICT agenda, which speaks to empowering its citizens to participate in the digital transformation. Again, this initiative fits nicely here, and I'm sure the Ministry of Education and ICT, as an advocate for this initiative, is very proud, and we are willing to continue those partnerships to ensure that our nation develops together, irrespective of age, color, creed, gender. Being able to participate in this digital transformation is empowerment for each one of you.
Two of the participants shared their experience and encouraged their colleagues to put their newfound knowledge into frequent practice.
Thank you to Keishan, Tutor Keishan, for teaching me to send an email, to pay my bills online, the different parts of a computer, the input, the software, and many more.
This is so important today because the computer is taking over rapidly, and if we, the older folks, ain't get in line, we'll surely be left behind. For the past few sessions, we learned so much that we are satisfied to the point, but there's so much more to be learned. So we are looking forward to level 2.
All right, it's time now for the news to 7 o'clock. On the other side of that, we're talking with Attorney and former Government Minister Prakash Ramadar. He's taking up an issue with a family in San Francisco. They are challenging the Water and Sewage Authority about issues having to do with the delivery of water in their community. Stay with us.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I am Marquise Akers. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Step-down facilities to reopen as COVID cases increase. Ministry still seeking monkeypox vaccines. TTPS Social Welfare Association expresses confidence that corrupt officers will be prosecuted. Now for the details. The Ministry of Health, Terence Yalsing, has revealed that a decision has been made by the ministry's COVID-19 response team to reactivate 2 step-down hospital facilities to ward stable COVID-19 patients. At Wednesday's Ministry of Health's virtual update on COVID-19, Mr. Yalsing said the Point Fortin Area Hospital, which can provide 50 beds, and the University of Trinidad and Tobago's Valsin campus, which can provide 40 beds, are being reoperationalized in order to relieve burden on public hospitals.
We are going to reactivate 2 step-down facilities. This will allow patients who are just on the cusp of being discharged to go into a step-down facility as we used to have, so that they could spend their final 2 to 3 days, 4 days in a step-down facility. That will then make room at the hospital level for people who need to be warded.
Meanwhile, Minister Yalsing notes that Trinidad and Tobago remains in the market for monkeypox vaccines and is working with regional states and the Pan-American Health Organization to procure such. The minister expressed that there is one supplier of the vaccines. As such, it is more beneficial for the nation to negotiate through PAHO, as a price for the vaccines has not yet been given.
We are in the market via PAHO, dealing with a producer called Bavarian Nordic, the only producer. We have no indication as yet on price.
The minister also revealed the approved shelf life of the vaccine, but its exact expiration will only be revealed once a contract is signed with the manufacturer.
The exact date will be informed once the contract has been signed. However, it is important to be considered that if the vaccine is kept at minus 50 degrees centigrade, the approved shelf life is 5 years. So if we chill it and freeze it down to minus 50, which we have the capacity for, it can last for 5 years. If kept at -20 degrees centigrade, the approved shelf life is 3 years.
The Vice President of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Social and Welfare Association, Assistant Superintendent Ishmael Pitt, has expressed his confidence in the service's ability to prosecute corrupt police officers. Responding to the U.S. State Department's report into human trafficking, which detailed rogue police officers as facilitating such crimes, ASP Pitt gave the assurance that the service has and continues to remove such elements from within its own, and his association is working to weed out corruption.
The public is quite aware that a number of police officers are being prosecuted for varying offences, ranging from corruption to even violent situations. So we are confident that the organization has done and is continue to do sufficiently regarding weeding out corruption.
ASP Pitt claims his association has identified financial mismanagement, which in his opinion is part of the reason for corrupt practices by officers. However, he notes that such activity will not disappear even if salary and back pay negotiations are favorable.
We have recognized a financial management issue. So just to go in the direction that I think you are alluding to, we have the view that even if police officers are given the best of packages and we cannot manage our finances appropriately, that we will still be in the same position.
Well, that's News to the Hour on WESN. I am Marquise Akers. Thanks for watching.
In this season, we talk more about health, wellness, and everything in between. I am so excited to share with you everything about health and wellness so that you can design the life that you've always dreamed of. Join me here on What's Up Doc. What's Up Doc, Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Is it politics? What is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andy.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Paul?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
The Mary Immaculate Prayer Group and Friends presents its prayer breakfast on August 31st in aid of Monsignor Christian Pereira. The prayer breakfast begins from 9 a.m. at the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception. Cost is only $200. Come support the Cup of Gratitude in aid of Monsignor Pereira, August 31st.
Tickets are available at the parish office of the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception and the parish of Our Lady of Perpetual Help.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. find the style number on the tag. Step 2, match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3, search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit? Yes. What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive, it is not rehabilitative.
We the police officers, we are professional and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole, it's for all of us in public.
Welcome back to the program. We continue to take a look around the region, and we were trying to reach Attorney Prakash Ramada on this story that featured in the paper yesterday about this family in San Francisco who taking issue with WASA because of a landslip that has caused some destruction to parts of their home. I've been trying to make contact with them on that issue. That was a big story in the Newsday yesterday. But right now we want to take a look at current developments, some current developments of interest in Jamaica. Let's take a look.
The Office of the Prime Minister said $18.2 million was spent on lobbying expenses. An additional sum of over $25 million was spent for the Jamaican delegation to attend the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Rwanda in June, where the vote took place. The OPM says the cost to attend the conference was split among 3 ministries, with the Office of the Prime Minister spending $12.8 million, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade paying $7.7 million, and Ministry of Tourism contributing the remaining $5.1 million. As it relates to corporate support for the campaign, Minister with responsibility for information Robert Morgan said the government is not in a position to speak on private donations.
That was a private arrangement between 2 private companies. The government was not a party to it. We have released all the information that the government is party to. I'm sure that the enterprising journalists at RJR can find the filing was done, public filing that was done by a few chin partners in the United States to show that they were working with private entities and not the government. We could never really reveal contractual relationships between private companies. That would be highly inappropriate.
Mr. Morgan added that Prime Minister Andrew Holness will still answer questions on the financing of the campaign that were tabled in Gordon House on June 28 by MP Julian Robinson.
Parliamentary questions are understanding orders, so they have to be answered in Parliament. The reason for the release was that there were several ATI requests which were made And the government, based on its obligations through the Access to Information Law, released the information through the ATI, and we felt it appropriate to send out a press release as well.
Mrs. Johnson-Smith was defeated by the incumbent Baroness Patricia Scotland at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting.
All right, so let's get to this story now. And reading from yesterday's edition of the Newsday. Attorney Prakash Ramada is seeking help for members of the Narain family whose house at Pluck Road, St. Santa Cecilia Trace in San Francisco was damaged by a nearby landslip. He sent a pre-action protocol letter to the Water and Sewage Authority Chairman Ravindra Nanga on Saturday. A copy of the letter was also sent to the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs on the same day. And speaking with reporters outside the Narain's house on Tuesday, Mr. Ramada said water from a nearby Wassa line had started to gush into the property again and further undermine it. The Narains have been experiencing this problem since last February. Well, Mr. Ramada is on the line with us now. Good morning.
Good morning, Andy. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you for having me. Yes.
All right, well, thanks for coming on. When we spoke yesterday, when I reached you yesterday, you said you were heading to court. It was not necessarily about this matter, but just one of your other...
Yes, we have other matters.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so tell us about this. So what is the advocacy? This story came out in the paper yesterday. Has there been any response, any kind of reaction in the last 24 hours about it?
Well, I was communicated with by a reporter last night that the minister, in fact, made a swift response. And I don't know if you've seen that yet.
Not yet.
But it was a bit troubling in that clearly those who advised him didn't give him all his facts in the matter. Apparently, the minister had indicated from what was said, is that the reports of the internet must have been wrong. I'm paraphrasing here.
Yeah.
And criticized the report. But what was missing in that is, first of all, the report is dated in June. This is an ongoing problem where there was a major leak again from Thursday last week, right into Saturday, and therefore one would expect that things will, progress in a negative way. There was also a concern that we had that in his response, basically said that his function is dealing with the connectivity of the road, and that MPs and councillors have to deal with issue of relocation. That leads me to a grave suspicion that what we saw was correct, that in which some technocrat or group within wish to condemn this building, have it demolished without care or concern for, first of all, relocation, and significantly for compensation. We still live in a democracy under our constitution, and the state has no authority to take any asset, any value from you without compensation. And the normal course of things that we have done for many, many, many years is that if there is a need for public works to be done, you negotiate with the owners of land or property to ensure that they do not lose without compensation. And I hope that this was really an error of their judgment rather than a new principle or policy. It's a very dangerous precedent, and that is why we got involved with a view that we need to set the record right on this.
Right. So give us a sense of what we're seeing here on the screen with the footage of this matter. First of all, the roads, because that has been a sore point with people in that part of the country for some time now. Look at the condition of the roads. That's one. I mean, like, you're just seeing a vehicle, a pickup vehicle struggling to get through this kind of situation. That's one issue by itself.
Yes, and I agree with you. And this has been a problem because of lack of maintenance in a large part. There is no problem structurally or engineering-wise that can be solved. But what we are seeing, and this is not condemnation for the moment, this has been so far a long period of time, where we are seeing institutions of state do not do their duty in terms of maintenance of retaining walls and in particular drainage. We have started to use our roads as a form of drainage in the country, and that is why the roads fall apart, and you have slippage when you do not have retaining walls put where they ought to have been put. And to continuously maintain with vigilance and not to wait for months and for years. And when we have a dire situation like this, then to respond to it, it's far more expensive. And in terms of the repair, and two, the inconvenience to our traveling public. So I understand the difficulties the ministry faces, but we must do it according to law. We must do it properly and ensure that we do not do business as we have in the past to prevent these problems from recurring throughout the length and breadth of our country.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a note of the picture I'm looking at in the news yesterday. The family, it seems like a relatively large family there. So a lot of people.
Multi-generational. We have from 83 years old to 4 years old.
Yes.
And these are poor and very humble people and scared out of their wits because there was a fear that they would lose their home from either it collapsing at some time in the future, and also now with the possibility of the state deeming it and condemning it, as we know, and having it demolished without any idea as to where they would be housed, if at all, or any compensation for their land and for their home, which has been multi-generational.
Yeah. Describe for us what we're seeing when we look at that part of the footage, which has you and other people who look like officials on the spot there. What are you all discussing? What's the document I think you have in your hand there?
Well, I don't have the benefits, as you know, we're doing this right, so I do not know what you're looking at, but I assume it's a picture with the background of the house, that the family, and we are literally standing on the road facing towards the home.
Yes.
And to one side, you will see the terrible landscape, the road itself, as you pointed out, 4x4, has difficulty navigating. And therefore, the land is moving into the home and down that hill.
Yeah.
And if you look, I don't know if you could see in your photograph, there's a main, a water main.
Yes, you saw that.
On the hill. And that has been the problem for several years. And without any respite from WASA, they will take their glorious time whenever there's a report. And we call it a leak, but it's really a gush, it's a main. To me appears to be an 8-inch thing. And the latest edition of that problem was on Thursday. And it went on Saturday after we sent up the action protocol, or thereabouts. WASA turned up and dealt with that. And there was a water gush that continues to undermine the home.
Yeah, and so at one part of the footage, you have some documents in your hand, like, and what look like other officials.
Yeah, well, those would have been my colleagues, Mr. Cedric Ryan, Mr. Diana Narjo, and the family of course. And we are always grateful to the media to highlight these issues because there's a silence that has come to the country where people believe that things can happen to them without anybody caring. So thank you, Andy, for this opportunity. And for all members of the media who have an extraordinarily important role as we go past to highlight injustice. Those documents, one would have been the pre-action protocol, which we issued on Saturday afternoon to the Ministry of the Attorney General and to the Chairman of the Board of WASA. And of course, as we proceed, we will add to that number of persons or entities that will be still the action protocol with a view to legal matters being taken before the court. What other documents we have is that we thought it important to highlight and to show that there was a request from the Ministry of Ministry of Work, to local government, basically with a view to deem the structure ruinous and therefore to be condemned and destroyed. That was in May of this year. And fortunately, there was a report from the engineering and civil officer who visited the property on several occasions and deemed, he never said that it wasn't damaged. In fact, the report is quite clear. What he said, though, there was not at a point where he could deem it ruinous. And therefore, under Section 176 of the Municipal Corporation Act, 176 to 179, he could not deem it so, and therefore wait to be condemned. And I saw that the minister took some umbrage at that, without, this man, whoever it is, I don't know, the engineering department did their survey and gave a report and indicated that they do not consider it so. And we cannot attack, or we cannot even appear to undermine the scientific and professional reports of officers of the state when it doesn't suit and satisfy your needs.
Yeah, I'm trying to sort of locate this place, and I can tell you sometimes when I'm coming back, most times I come back that way, or used to at least, when I get from my ancestral village in Los Bajo, when I'm coming back through and I go through Sipario Road, and then I find a route through Timital, and then take the San Francisco Road going through Woodland. That is in that area? Because I've been advised not to, particularly in the nights, I've been advised not to try that at all because of the atrocious state of the roads and so on. So if that is in that general area, because my understanding is that the roads there are just atrocious.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, the footage speaks for itself. A high traveling vehicle, SUV, had major difficulty. The wheels were spinning, and we saw cars that the other side dragged. And I could only imagine for those who had the damage that would have been done to the vehicles over time. So I understand and I appreciate the ministry's position that they need to fix things, but you cannot fix one thing at the destruction of another and take away people's constitutional rights to the enjoyment of their property without due process and without compensation. And that is where I have a major problem with what was happening there. And when I think you should find a report that was sent to me purportedly from the minister himself, and that I think his advisors need to advise him better in terms of the facts of the circumstances and the policy that we must move forward with. It cannot be allowed.
So what do you think will be the next development based on the widespread coverage that this issue has gotten over the last 24, 36 hours?
Well, there are several things that will come out of this. We are looking at other bits of information to join other parties, first of all, to a pre-action protocol, and ultimately, hopefully not. But if we have to, we will take a matter to the court for the resolution there about the rights of this family. Yes.
Yeah, so it's, what do you expect to happen now as sort of immediate responses?
Well, let me put on the record that Minister Siminan, whom I've known for a long period of time, has always been a very reasonable person. And he does not condone injustice. So I expect that when the proper facts are brought before him and the circumstances, that we will find a solution moving forward. And if we have to resort to the court will make a decision on the matter.
But you're hoping that it doesn't get there?
No, because it is a matter of urgency in all sorts of ways, including, of course, the redevelopment of the road to usable condition. It is urgent in terms of the damage that has been done and continues to be done to the home and the care of the family. So on those two bases alone, I would expect that we must move with alacrity on all sides to resolve this.
Yeah, and you've given them 14 days to come up with, yeah?
The normal time frame is, within the month or 28 days a year. But having regard to the urgency of what we're dealing with, and then understand this reaction was issued on Saturday, because early on Saturday morning we were notified by Emma and her family of this gushing water since Thursday night, continuously until Saturday. And we're grateful for that crew that came out ultimately and stopped the gush. But, it went on for day and night for several days and nights.
Yeah. We got to, but I just, I'm just sort of probably provocatively wanting to ask you about what's your politics these days, where you know.
Andy, I'm so sorry, the signal has dropped and I'm not hearing you clearly.
Okay.
Yes.
You hearing now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, no, what I was saying is that I, probably provocatively, I just wanted to see where you are with the politics, what's on your mind regarding how things are happening, looking at it from the vantage point you have now.
Well, let me put on the record that I am now refocused into my position where I began professionally representing people in the courts and doing my work through the courts. I am returned to that. I'm very happy. I am very troubled as a citizen, however, to see the quality of the politics that we are now done with, where it's very difficult times when we need a focused attention on improving Trinidad and Tobago, saving Trinidad and Tobago. We're seeing a lot of personal attacks, a sort of mobile land and a sort of, personal issues put in a nasty way to the public space, damaging each other.
Yes.
I made the point when I was in Parliament that we could be opponents, but we do not have to be enemies. We are the leaders, or we were, and the leadership of a country includes both government and opposition. And that the country will take its direction from its leaders at some level or the other. And that is where we must start to fix this country, to ensure that every ounce of our energy is put to saving Trinidad and Tobago and improving into the future. And I'm not yet sensing that sense of urgency that most of our citizens see in relation to crime, in relation to climate change, in relation to the economy, and the host of problems, that there is a true focus on dealing with those issues rather than just, pot shots that we can.
All right.
But we can fix it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much again, Andy, and keep up the great work you are doing. God bless you, Andy.
Thank you very much, Attorney and former government minister there, Prakash Ramadan, on that issue. Well, that's our broadcast for this morning. We want to thank you for watching. We want to thank our guests. And we tell you, you could always stay with us here. You could check us out at WESN on all our social media platforms. You could send your emails to this program at amprime@wesncc.com. There's news at the top of the hour, again followed by today's edition of Talking Point with Messrs. Shah and Small. But for now, I'm Andy Johnson. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.
WESN.
The Mary Immaculate Prayer Group and Friends presents its prayer breakfast on August 31st in aid of Monsignor Christian Pereira. The prayer breakfast begins from 9 a.m. at the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception. Cost is only $200. Come support